Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema Safari. Today we're talking about Michael. So Michael is a biographical film, follows the early life of Michael Jackson, who is portrayed by his real life nephew, Jafar Jackson. So stick with us as we talk about Michael. So Michael is a musical biographical film about the earlier life of singer Michael Jackson. Um, we see the beginning of the film is kind of like his earlier involvement in the 1960s with the Jackson 5 while he's a kid. And it kind of wraps up with his bad tour in the late 1980s. Um, so in the film, Jafar Jackson plays the adult Michael, and Giuliano Cruevaldi plays Michael as a child while he's like in his earlier years with the Jackson 5. Both of them are actually in their film debuts, and they both did great in the role. Amazing work, a lot of praise to both of them. Also in the film, we had Nia Long as Katherine Jackson, the matriarch of the Jackson family, Miles Teller as John Branca, Michael's attorney. We have Laura Harrier as Suzanne de Pas, who is the creative assistant to Barry Gordon at Motown Records. Jessica Sula as Latoya, Jamal R. Henderson as Jermaine, Trey Horton as Marlon, Rian Hill as Tito, Joseph David Jones as Jackie, Mike Myers as Walter Yetnikoff, president of CBS Records, Kendrick Sampson as Quincy Jones, among several others rounding out this great cast. So the film opened on April 24th, and it opened as the biggest both biographical film and musical biopic, with the biggest opening weekend for either type of film, surpassing Oppenheimer, which was the biggest opening for a biographical film. So it was projected to gross between about 75 to 80 million, and it went on to debut to 97 million. So very strong opening for the film. Even though like critically it hasn't gotten a lot of love. Critically, it has received a lot more negative reviews. Audience wise, it's been getting a lot of praise. The scores are very polarized. But based on its strong opening, the audience, the love for the film, support is definitely there from audiences. So in the film, we do see the start of the film as the where they start with the Jackson 5 and work their way up to Michael's early career, early adulthood, and do end with the Bad Tour, which is his first solo tour. The film, there's definitely a lot of positive and negatives in the film. A lot of the positives, when I watch it, like definitely the performances, particularly Jafar, amazing, very, very strong. Choreography, dancing, all the musical numbers were definitely a highlight of the film. Definitely a big part of the film. It looked great visually, the coloring of the film, everything visually and performance-wise, definitely the strong points of the film. Like when I was watching the film, especially towards the end, it might have been his one of the last tours they did in the end of the film. I don't remember if it was the Jackson 5, like last tour or his personal tour. He was doing a full dance with one of the songs, and watching in the theater, like after a while, I kind of for a second I forgot it was Jafar, playing the role. I just you think it was Michael. Like that's how good it was, at least to me. He did amazing. So that was definitely a highlight of the film. On the negative side, which I've talked to some other people about, story wise, it kind of jumped from decade to decade. In some instances, pretty fast. So we do start out in the 60s, but it does jump. We do get a good amount of time with the younger Michael, but it does jump from like the 60s to 70s, and the movie only covers 2 decades, but it does kind of feel like it jumps around, like progressing towards the final decade of the film kind of fast. So we don't really get too much development story-wise in certain parts of his earlier life, which would have helped make the film a little stronger from that point of view. So that's definitely something that a lot of people I've talked to kind of viewed in a negative light for the film, which I definitely agree with. Yeah, there are definitely certain parts in the film that could have been explored a little more story-wise to make it a little better and easier to like kind of grasp certain things. Also, some of the a lot of the side characters weren't too well developed. Colman Domingo, he great job, great actor. Thought he did fine with the role, but it kind of was a one-dimensional performance, I think. Didn't really get too much out of him. And great actor, amazing. He's done such amazing work, and he did good with the role. But like it just felt like too one-dimensional, I think, for his performance for this role. So I kind of wish there was a little more with that. And a lot of like the side characters didn't necessarily they were kind of more featured in the earlier life, like with the Jackson 5, then they were kind of just thrown to the side. And this is a story about Michael, so I do get that. But they were such a big part in his life, especially in those earlier years, until he kind of cut ties with Joseph and really started his like own solo career. But this film does really explore that time period of when he is still living with the family so they're still a big part of his life. So it kind of threw that to the side, which it would have been a little better if they explored some of those characters a little more, because they were such a big part of that earlier life of Michael. So those were definitely some of the negatives from the film. But overall, I definitely enjoyed it. I think after watching it, before I watched it, like a lot of people were saying they loved it, but there were a few people that were like, yeah, it wasn't a great film. I didn't like it that much. The music was great, but other than that, and after watching it, I can see what they were saying. Going into it with like a filmmaker mindset, it isn't necessarily the strongest film. There are definitely issues like pacing wise and like from the story standpoint, definitely issues with that. But like music wise, everyone's singing in the theater, that part of it is amazing. And I think that aspect of it is why people are saying it's so good. And so like I can see both sides of it. But for me personally, I definitely enjoyed it. Huge Michael Jackson fan. A lot of people are. But yeah, if you're a Michael Jackson fan, like a lot of the songs, the performance, especially by Jafar, amazing. So definitely will enjoy it. So it's definitely worth a watch. Definitely something that you will want to see on the biggest screen possible, biggest audio possible. I saw it in Dolby the first time I watched it. So having that audio, especially with the music, amazing experience. So definitely definitely see it on the big screen. It's definitely a great experience, and yeah, definitely a very, very fun movie. So I'd love to hear all your thoughts on the film. Your favorite moments of Michael Jackson. Also, I forgot to mention before we wrap up. The end of the film, it does say his story continues, so it is hinting at a potential. It could go multiple ways. It could just like be, tricking us, like his story does continue, like this isn't the end of his life. But it also could potentially hint at a sequel. Now, I know in early April, I don't know if it was the director or one of the heads of the whatever studio, was it Lionsgate or Universal? I don't know, whatever studio produced it. Said a sequel did end up getting greenlit. At the time when they were making it, it was meant to be kind of just a standalone film. But later on, they did say that if it does well enough, that it could end up warranting a sequel, kind of exploring the later life of Michael. Now, I always thought that, the later life of Michael was in some ways darker. It's where it starts to get a little darker. So, and there's certain things that I thought couldn't really be talked about, especially in a film. But I don't know what all the legality would be with all that. But yeah, it would be interesting to see that. Also, like another thing for this film, um, even in his earlier life, there were some darker moments mixed in with the good moments. Not as much as his later life, but that also didn't really get explored, which some people kind of criticized. But again, going back to like the story and development and all that. Yeah, but it would be interesting to see if a sequel does end up getting made. I know it did officially, supposedly get greenlit. So especially after the strong opening for the film, I don't see why, if they're just going based off that, I don't see why they wouldn't make another film, but I guess we'll see. Um, yeah, but I definitely enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film. And as always, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching the podcast, and we will see you next time.